Hello, I'm doing this video to say, look, what I've learned from the past. Look, I think from my point of view, look, I think from my point of view, I think the way I used to react to situations was not good. And it's hard what the words to use because I don't want to, do you know what I mean? I don't want to sound like a baby, do you know what I mean? I don't want to use that, I don't want to use that word like clingy, but I'm not going to use that word. I'm going to say I always wanted to be around someone at the festival. I always wanted to be around them, and I always wanted to be like I always wanted to be around them. And like even when like we're having Chris and that, do you know what I mean? I've gone to watch having Chris with them, and it was like, well, why have I? Do you know what I mean? It was just all the time. Do you know what I mean? It was just listen. I made a lot. Listen, I think doing that, listen, I was asking for trouble to be honest with you, and I think from my point of view, yeah, I just don't think that's a good sign. You always want to be with that. Do you know what I mean? It's just, and I was younger. I will say that I was a lot younger. I was a lot younger than what I am now. But I have to say, I think from my point of view, I think it was. I think it was very harsh lessons that I learned. I think um, like I said, I just think that from my point of view, like I said, I think it's a lot of. I think I've got a lot of less. I think there's a lot of lessons that I learned from that. And um, look, maybe not. I think possibly. Listen, at the time, I was like, well, I mean, I can understand why. Do you know what I mean? And it's the fact that, I mean, listen, I made mistakes, and the thing is, I always wanted to talk to them. I always really wanted to talk to them all the time, and it's like, well, I always wanted to talk to them. I always wanted to be like at the, I think it was the Jesus Arms when they were at the, because they were at the Jesus Arms. I always wanted to go to the I was going to the Jesus Arms, and yeah, it did cause a lot of issues, I have to say. So yeah, I think made made mistakes there. I mean, first of all, I shouldn't have. Do you know what I mean? It was like, why am I trying to talk to them all the time? And yeah, to ask them to let me know that they got home, I think that was a mistake. I literally made a mistake there. And like I said, I don't know. I was just, do you know what I mean? I was just trying to be too friendly. I think I was just trying to be too really over friendly with it all. And the thing is, going forwards, I think I have learned the lessons from that, all that, all that time. I said previous in my videos that when you know what I mean when I say I can't no when I always no, when I always say that I can't listen, I'm not always going to speak to this person, and listen, it's how it's going to be. Listen, it's the way it is. Um, do you know what I mean? It's the way it is. I think this situation is a lot easier because I see them every week. I do think seeing somebody once a year was very difficult for me. So for my look, it was difficult for me because I'm not used to seeing someone just once a year, going to a festival once a year. I go home. and then I don't even see him again until the next festival, and then I go home, and then the next festival. Do you know what I mean? It's not easy to deal with. It's not like, do you know what I mean? It's not easy to deal with. And look, as much as I've come out now and I've said what the mistakes were, I sort of think that it was really difficult for me. So I'm sort of, do you know what I mean? It was sort of really, I'm sort of 50-50 on it, really. Um, Listen, perhaps I shouldn't have been over friendly, do you know what I mean? And again, I think that might have been because I see them once a year. I saw them once a year, sorry, and like I say, we don't live in the same we don't live in the same city. Do you know what I mean? And that was hard. That was very hard. To speak to somebody once a year for me is very hard. It's really, really difficult. It's really difficult. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done. So look, from my point of view, I've said before, I think it was really difficult. It's really tricky for me. Really tricky for me, and I just think. You see me how I handle the situation when look, I've not spoke to them. Is it? Look, I've not spoke to them twice so far this month, and I've got to say I've handled it really well because what I do know is that I know that I will get the chance to chat. I know that I will get a chance, and listen, it might not be as many. This is the thing. I might not get a chance at all, but listen, it may be I don't speak to them at all this month. But again, I'm not thinking like. Do you know what I mean? I don't think like this. I'm not thinking like that, and I don't think like this at all. I tried to. Do you know what I mean? I tried to stay positive. I know I need to speak to my supervisor. What was it, 2 months ago? Which I understand. Um, but from my point of view, like I say, it's just unfortunate. Like I say, the situation's unfortunate, and it's been unfortunate so far. I said before, it's been very unfortunate. So like I say, it's what it is, and it's something that I've had to get on with.